So Arch-based Linux has this reputation of being intimidating and reserved only for like the hardcore Linux users. But today I wanted to challenge that assertion and show how CachyOS, a Arch-based distro, can actually be a legit daily driver. Now, for a bit of context, Arch Linux is one of the 4 major Linux families, alongside Debian, Red Hat, and OpenSUSE. Full disclosure though, this is my first time using Arch-based distro. I usually stick to Debian and more frequently Fedora as my daily driver, so this overview was a great way for me at least to understand how Arch behaves a little bit differently and does things on a different level. Arch Linux is a rolling release, which means you're always getting the latest updates without waiting for big version upgrades, which is great for newer drivers, performance improvements, and security fixes. It uses Pacman for fast, clean package management, plus the Arch User Repository, or AUR, which gives you access to a huge library of community software. Arch has its reputation for being difficult because it sort of expects the user to be more hands-on. And that's exactly where CachyOS comes in, where it smooths out those rough edges while keeping everything that makes Arch powerful intact. CachyOS started around 2022 under Peter Young and has grown into a well-maintained Arch-based distro with an active team behind it. One of the biggest standouts is the documentation. The wiki is clear, well-organized, and very accessible, which really shows how serious the project is about long-term usability. To give CachyOS a run for its money, I'm using my Lenovo gaming laptop with an Intel 14th Gen Core i9, 32 gigabytes of RAM, and dual 1 terabyte SSDs, as well as an NVIDIA RTX 4070. So we're definitely going to be doing some gaming on here. You can download the CachyOS ISO directly from CachyOS.org, which I will be leaving in the video description. And there are 2 versions available, the desktop edition, which is what we're going to be using, and the handheld edition designed for devices like the Steam Deck, Rogue Ally, and the Legion Go. After flashing CachyOS to a USB drive, I use Windows Disk Management to get the laptop ready. Since my laptop has 2 1 terabyte drives, I left the main Windows drive alone because it's almost full, and I just shrunk the second one by 200 gigabytes so I'd have enough space to install CachyOS and try some games. I then booted the laptop from the USB, which drops you straight into the OS and greets you with CachyOS's Hello Wizard. So instead of being dumped into a blank desktop and told good luck, the wizard gives you links to documentation, forums, app software, and updates. And right in the middle is the install button. So when you're ready to actually install the OS to your drive, you just click it and you're off to the races. After selecting your region and keyboard layout, the installer actually lets you choose your bootloader, which was very interesting to see. A lot of distros just default to Grub, but Cachy gives you options like Refine, System Boot, and even Lamine, which is a more modern bootloader and supports things like Btrfs snapshots. So very on brand for an Arch-style distro with lots of choices and control. I just kept it simple and went with a tried and true Grub. Next, you choose the installation type and where CachyOS will live. For me, this is the second 1 terabyte SSD, so I went with the manual partitioning option to set things up exactly how I wanted. The installer then asks for an EFI partition, which if you've ever dual booted before, you've probably seen, and that's where I hit a bit of a pickle. I first pointed it to my existing Windows EFI partition, but it complained that it was too small and needed to be at least 500 megabytes. So instead, I created a new 600 megabyte EFI partition inside the space I had set aside for CachyOS. After that, I used the rest of the 200 gigabytes for the main Linux partition, set the mount point, and choose ext4 for simplicity. There's also a Btrfs option, which supports the snapshot style rollbacks, which is something that's nice if you are using a rolling release distro like Arch. Next was selecting the desktop environment, which I really wasn't expecting but really liked. You have options for the Windows Manager i3 or Bungie or Ubuntu, Mate, XFCE. Everybody's here. I opted for KDE Plasma because, of course. After selecting your desktop environment, you're even allowed to install extra desktop environments or Windows managers during the setup. So if you wanted Bungie or mess around with i3 or Hyperlin later, it's a nice option to have. After that, the installer began copying files and the installation took about 5 minutes. You're then taken back to CachyOS's Hello Wizard that basically acts like your welcome dashboard when you first log in. As mentioned, it gives you straight access to the CachyOS wiki, gives you easy ways to install common apps, and even lets you run system updates without having to live in the terminal. Within the Hello Wizard, there's even a kernel manager. It's not something you need to be messing with every day, but it gives you a clean, safe way to manage and switch between kernels if you're doing performance testing or maybe troubleshooting. Now, opening the terminal did throw me off at first because it wasn't Bash. CachyOS actually uses Fish by default. Fish stands for Friendly Interactive Shell, and it's basically a smarter, more user-friendly take on Bash with built-in autocomplete and suggestions. But if you wanted the classic experience, you can just easily switch to Bash by typing in Bash, and the same thing if you wanted to go back to Fish. Another quality of life inclusion is the Linux recovery tool called Chroot. So if you ever run into trouble like the bootloader breaks or you can't reach your desktop or even if you forget your password, you can boot from USB live mode, Chroot into your existing install and attempt to repair it. CachyOS's version of this tool is more like a guided wizard to assist you with finding the right partitions. It mounts everything correctly and drops you into your installed OS so you can hopefully fix it. So next, I connected to Wi-Fi and started installing some apps, and this was actually a very straightforward process. I just opened the CachyOS package installer from the Hello Wizard and searched for the apps I wanted. First GIMP, then LibreOffice, just to show you how easy the whole process is. And thanks to KDE, once the app's finished installing, you get that nice little new indicator right next to the icon in the start menu, so you don't have to go digging for them. It's a nice example of how CachyOS's Hello Wizard and KDE just work really well together. After that, I installed Steam so we could do some quick gaming tests, and I didn't want to turn this into a benchmarking video, but I did want to demonstrate how well NVIDIA works, so I went with Doom: The Dark Ages, which has a gold rating on Protondb. And as an aside, if you did want to check how well a game runs on Linux, or the Steam Deck for that matter, you can head over to protondb.com, which I'll leave in the video description. Speaking of Proton, CachyOS actually ships with its own Proton build alongside Valve's standard Proton versions, so it's nice that you've already got multiple compatibility layers at the ready if need be. So Doom started up with no problem, and I was in and playing right away. I could see in the settings that my NVIDIA 4070 was recognized, so I set the graphics to high settings and at 1080p resolution. I was averaging in the high 60s to low 70s FPS with a 1% low around 55, which meant performance stayed consistent and the game felt smooth overall. And as you can hear, audio was working perfectly well. I next wanted to see what would be different when switching over to the Bungie desktop, and it was very eye-opening to see how much of CachyOS carried over, and of course it would, but as I mentioned, this is sort of my first exposure to CachyOS, so it was nice to see that it was consistent. You still get the CachyOS Hello Wizard, all the key tools like the kernel manager, Chroot, and CachyOS's package manager, and even things like Fish still being the default shell when you open a terminal. As I mentioned, it just goes to show that CachyOS is a consistent experience underneath no matter which desktop you're using. So as I mentioned in the beginning, this is the first time I've used an Arch-based distro, and I really liked CachyOS. It's fast, well documented, packed with a lot of good useful tools, and it does feel like a very approachable entry point. Whether you're Arch curious or even just getting deeper into Linux in general, and between the CachyOS wiki and their forums, you've got plenty of solid resources to fall back on if you ever get stuck. Anyway, that is going to wrap up our CachyOS overview. If you enjoyed it and found it useful, please drop me your thoughts or feedback in the comment section. And also be sure to let me know which distro of Arch you've used, if any, and if not, which distro of Linux you ultimately prefer. As always, please make sure that you are subscribed to Mackie Tech if you enjoyed content like this. And if you'd like to support me, please consider becoming a YouTube member or visiting my Patreon, where I have tons of behind-the-scenes footage as well as tutorial guides. A special thank you to all of my Patreon supporters, you know who you are, and a thank you to all of you for watching. We'll be talking to you again very soon.